You see this man right here, DeSantis? He is the governor of Florida. I don't know of any group that he has not offended. I can't think of any group that he hasn't offended except maybe his own. I guess. I don't know. Florida adopts new standards. And this is what the big talk is for African American history. So he, this governor, Ronald Dion DeSantis, is an American politician. He was serving since 2019 as the 46th governor of Florida. He's a member of the Republican Party and he represented Florida's 6th congressional district in the U.S. House of Representatives from 2013 to 2018. So, one of the big hot button topics is Florida's governor DeSantis. He digs in as criticism of Black history curriculum mounts. And so he has not left any stone unturned when I say to you that I don't know of any group other than his own that he hasn't offended in some way. Um, so his campaign, he's on the campaign trail. His premise is to eradicate the woke ideology, is what he claims it is. So Ron DeSantis, he faces flack over Florida's Black history curriculum. So basically, what he was saying is that enslaved Africans were taught skills during slavery. They were taught skills, and that is supposed to somehow make, I guess, slavery not such a bad thing in his eyes. Um, Very, very troubling because this is coming from a governor who's also wanting to change the curriculums in school. So he's also, might I add, Ron DeSantis, he's backed by Nazis. Um, and he did a video, um, and it's been promoted by a campaign staff. That's in another article. It doesn't sound good. It sounds like some of the very people that people have been fighting so hard to try to um, get rid of the hate and get rid of the discrimination and the bigotry. It seems like this governor and among others have been trying to recreate their own version of these beliefs that have caused a lot of problems in people's lives, that have caused a lot of people to be oppressed in a lot of ways. So I just feel like this is really sad. So let me read this here. So you can see a picture of his face, but I'm reading it from the article out of Politico. Florida and DeSantis dig in as criticism of Black history curriculum mounts. So the teaching standards have again thrust Florida and DeSantis into America's politically polarized fight over how and what to teach children. So the new teaching standards have again thrust Florida and Ron DeSantis into America's politically polarized fight over how and what to teach children. Tallahassee, Florida officials are digging in and defending the state's new standards for teaching Black history amid continued widespread criticism on Monday, including threats of possible legal action from a group of civil and religious leaders. So Black leaders and the Democrats and some Republicans as well are using this issue to hammer Governor Ron DeSantis and his White House ambitions, specifically targeting the new standards that require middle schoolers in the to be instructed that slaves develop skills which in some instances could be applied to for their personal benefit. So DeSantis' administration, meanwhile, is attempting to characterize criticisms of the history standards as dishonest and a political stunt perpetrated by Democrats like Vice President Kamala Harris to tarnish Florida, which I believe Miss Kamala Harris did visit Florida to talk on those issues. The teaching standards have again thrust Florida and DeSantis into America's politically polarized fight over how and what to teach children. So Republicans have praised DeSantis and the state education officials for supporting controversial education measures, including pushing Florida's parental rights in education law, known by opponents as Don't Say Gay, restricting lessons on race, and banning colleges and universities from spending on many diversity and equity and inclusion programs. So all the things that it sounds like they're using or they were using to create some inclusion or change, they want to do away with. So Democrats and the civil rights groups, however, have demonized the governor and Florida over such bills and have threatened boycotts of the state. So he's not going to rewrite and redefine Black history, not while we're still alive. Reverend R.B. Holmes Jr., pastor of Bethel Missionary Baptist Church in Tallahassee, told reporters Monday at the event condemning the teaching standards. Well, I've even here in California, I believe this is a Democratic state or more liberal state, but there have been people that have tried to do away with some of the studies where they made it where the books look like they have a small section that refers to slavery, but very small. I've seen it in some of the books, the history books, and they don't speak too much on it. And it's almost like somebody purposefully wrote it that way because they tried to keep a lot of the history, the truth of history out of the books because they did not want the kids to know what happened in history, which is a disservice to those kids because some of those kids, their parents had that was their life, that was their history, and their parents had parents that experienced that. And so I think it's a disservice to not teach kids the truth and to leave things out that are significant in history because the kids are now dumb to that. They're not dumb kids, but you're making them dumb to what has actually gone on in the real world, all because of your bigotry and your bias beliefs. So you rob them of an education. That's basically what to me, that's what this is. You're robbing them of the truth. You're robbing them of an education so they can learn and decipher for themselves how they feel about what happened in history. It is not for you to dissuade their minds on how they feel. That once they are taught those things, then they later can form. They will eventually. Each kid is going to eventually form their own beliefs at some point, whether it's what you want them to believe or not. You didn't rob them of the education, but if you take it from them and then they're forming beliefs based on something they don't even know or they have never learned, then it makes what we're going through now a lot worse in the years to come, because now you're going to have a group of kids who are not only illiterate to what the real world is, but you're also you're taking away knowledge from them of the true history, and those kids are not going to be able to handle being in a world where they think that your people learned skills through slavery, So now they treat you a certain way. They think you're not human. That's what it sounds like when he's saying, "Oh, they learn skills." Like we're savages or something, and we needed to take direction from you to learn skills. Those people already had skills. You stole the skills they had. If anything, you learned skills from us, or people that look like me. You learned skills from them, and you robbed them of their skills, and you put your name on it and say that you created it. That's why all the books have all the inventors look like you. All of the people who are supposed to be so talented, they look like you. All the people that created all these great things in America and discovered all this great stuff happen to look like you because you stole information from people who don't look like you. That's what you did. And so now you want to lie to these kids and tell them that, oh, they learned skills from us. When it was the other way around. You stole skills from the people that you claim learned skills from you. That's what you did. So the last part of this that I'm looking at, it's basically DeSantis, what he was saying. His ideology, he's saying here, he says the new teaching standards approved unanimously last week by Florida's Board of Education are the latest attempts by the state leader to regulate how students learn about race in the public schools. So they were crafted, listen to that, crafted by the Florida Department of Education work group to match the so-called Stop Woke Act. Now, who were those people? We'll want to see who those people were that did this. So, something specifically requested by DeSantis in 2022 to target lessons over issues like white privilege, which is true. You're using it now. You're using that, what you say to target that, you're actually using it. You're using your privilege to get up there and say these horrible things, because they're horrible, to say these lies and to get up there on your stump, on your tree stump, and lie to millions of people about some stuff that you really didn't possess, that you stole, that people before you that look like you stole. That's basically what's going on. So it says, by creating the new protections for students and workers, including that a person should not be instructed to feel guilt. Feel guilt? Listen, if you feel guilt, then maybe it's something in you that you should evaluate, or you should really take notice of. Maybe it's your own bigotry. Maybe that's what you're feeling guilty about, because of the information that you had it in your mind somehow that black people are not human, or maybe we are not deserving, or we're not skilled enough. We had to get the skills from you, like you're so smart and you have all these skills. We had to somehow get them from you, that you didn't take anything from us. You just found us. We were on some little island and you just scooped us up and you taught us all this stuff, and we became these great people you see today. Those are lies. Those are lies. Lie. L-I-E. You are lying. That is not true. None of it is true, what you're saying here. So you're just lying to kids. You're lying to other adults. And you're going to make these kids angry, because when they get older, they're going to realize that you didn't tell the truth. So this was touted by education officials for teaching the good, the bad, and the ugly, is what they call it, about American history and slavery. Okay, so the standards were met with immediate criticism from Florida's largest teachers union and the other groups, attention that quickly gains steam nationally. Much of the scrutiny surrounds a particular standard requiring middle school students to learn how slaves developed skills, which in some instances could be applied to their personal benefit. But there are also objections to the lessons that classify acts of violence perpetrated against and by African Americans, like the Oki, the massacre of 1920, when a white crowd burned black homes and churches to the ground and killed a black residents in a small Florida town enraged by a black man attempting to vote. I remember hearing about that. So, in the face of this mounting criticism, including Holmes and the coalition of black faith leaders on Monday signaling intentions to rally and possibly pursue legal action, that DeSantis' administration is showing no signs of changing the controversial new standards, even as the Republican governor defended the standards Friday during a stop in Utah and claimed that he wasn't involved in it. So these were scholars who put that together. It was not anything that was done politically. Well, what do you expect? You're talking about it on CNN. It's all over the news and all over social media, so it is political. And people are looking at it. And you know that if you're saying that on your tree stump, people are going to see it. And if it's coming from you, Mr. Politician, it is political. So at this point, it is now political because you made it that way. So to that end, DeSantis' administration has learned, or they've leaned on the statements. They leaned on the statements from the two black members of the history work group to defend the standards and swat away naysayers. So the joint statement insisted that any attempt to reduce slaves to just victims of, oh my God, of oppression fails to recognize their strength, courage, and resiliency during a difficult time in American history. Don't try to use this. Don't try to use this. This is weak. So the Florida Department of Education, as one defense, listed 16 examples of historic figures that say developed highly specialized trades that benefited them after slavery. Okay? And so although several critics noted some people listed as examples were never enslaved, that's how much you know that these people don't know nothing of what they're talking about. Not a thing. So it says, and aptitudes which served to their benefit both while enslaved and after enslavement. Work group member William B. Allen, Demetrius Dean, and the former professor political philosophy in the Department of Political Science at Michigan State University, said in a clip of DeSantis' spokesperson posted on social media. And so, but those answers and explanations are doing little to quell opponents who claim that the standards are Florida's whitewashing. It is. I agree with them. It's whitewashing. History lessons. So, some such of the civil rights attorney Benjamin Crump fear that other states will, exactly, I'm with him on that. They will adopt these crazy ideas. Of course, they will they'll be emboldened by Florida's standards and enact similar policies. So speaking to reporters Monday, Crump, who came short of pledging to sue the DeSantis administration, which I hope he does, claimed that the state's revisionist history will cause psychological trauma for black students. Yeah, because you're reducing us as humans. You're looking at us like we're not even humans. We needed skills from you. We're so dumb that we need skills from you. Like, you guys are so brilliant, we needed the skills from you. If we didn't have you, we would be nowhere. That's the way you make this sound. And it sounds racist. That's what it sounds like, Mr. DeSantis. So that's what it sounds like. So the conflict over Florida's history standards are similar to what unfolded when the Education Department officials earlier this year rejected the College Board African American Studies AP program from initially including coursework on queer theory and other aspects it deemed objectionable, such as critical race theory, which is CRT. So in this case, too, DeSantis' administration was scorned by black leaders, and Trump threatened to sue if the students were blocked from taking the course. And so the course, however, is still not being offered in Florida, but in one key difference between the two issues, Florida and DeSantis are now taking heat from other Republicans. So it comes at a difficult time for DeSantis' campaign, which has struggled to gain traction amid frequent criticism from the former President Donald Trump. So, two of DeSantis' GOP presidential primary opponents, former Texas Representative Will Hurd, who is black, a former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, who both publicly lambasted the new standards. Christie also targeted how the governor seemed to distance himself from the standards of Utah, claiming that those are not the words of leadership. Governor DeSantis started this fire with the bill that he signed, and now he doesn't want to take responsibility for whatever is done in the aftermath of it. And from listening and watching his comments, he is obviously uncomfortable, Christie said Sunday. So even the people that are Republican, just like DeSantis, not all of them are on board with the things that he's been doing. So he should reevaluate what he's saying before he even comes out and says it. Now it almost seems like he's trying to hide from his words. He's already said this stuff. Now he's trying to see, how can I get out of this? You're really stuck in it now, buddy. You had no business even coming up with this idea. And you had to have come up with it. You're blaming it. You're passing the blame off on somebody else when you're the one that came up with this idea. So if you came up with this idea, then you got to stick with it. And so all the heat that you're getting from it is what you had brought upon yourself. So you got to look at that, and you got to hold yourself accountable for the words that you coming out of your mouth, because you said this. So now people are going to hold you to it, and you might have some lawsuits. Look to have some lawsuits, because I don't think people are going to go away. The way you're saying this, basically what you're saying is, oh, black people weren't skilled enough. They're not smart enough. This isn't this what we've been always fighting about, is to try to resolve the issue of equality, right? And so that seems to be a problem with certain people of this persuasion, where they feel or take it upon themselves to have to always clarify that enslaved people somehow needed to get skills from the ones who enslaved them. What are you saying? Think about that. Think about that. These are people that enslaved these people, and in order for them to get these skills, if they didn't get enslaved and treated horribly, they wouldn't have got these skills. So we had to whip them in line. You don't view us as being human. That's basically what you're saying, DeSantis. I think you need to reevaluate your campaign and the premise that you're on, because right now it doesn't look good. Everything about it sounds like bigotry and bias. Everything in it. And even to use other black people, just because you use a black person to do your bidding for you doesn't mean that that's going to approve those findings of what you come up with. They're only working for you, collecting a paycheck. They probably don't want to do this either. I probably wouldn't do it if I was them, but they're probably working a job, and they probably were like, hey, we're getting paid. I don't really believe this, but we're getting paid, which I would probably not want to do that. I would change. I'd be like, I don't want to work with this right here, because this is not how I believe, So I don't know. It just does not sound good. None of this what he's doing, this DeSantis, none of it sounds good at all.